And so were you ASQ certified there, or did you do that later?
I did that later. So my exposure to, I think, the quality realm really came with my work in the quality unit at sterile fill finish manufacturer Jubilant Hollister Steer in Spokane, Washington. And I think there's a context there for having worked in the sort of pre-space, the pre-IND space, and maybe the early clinical space for many years, getting an opportunity to work in the commercial production, commercial manufacturing of drug product space, and then connect to commercial manufacturing of drug substance as well. It really gave me a different perspective. So the only thing that I haven't actively worked hands-on in would be supporting clinical trials. But I have a lot of colleagues who have given me great information about that.
Yeah, there's parts of me that is very thankful I haven't spent a lot of time in clinical trials for a lot of different reasons. And a big part of it chasing patients and chasing data and keeping binders filled with lots of different information. So I don't envy that position. I definitely respect it for sure.
It is its own area of expertise.
Absolutely. And so if I kind of think back through some of the things that I know about you, because I think that in a way this interview is a little unfair because I do know a little bit about you versus some of the other individuals that I interview. Oftentimes I just have to do research with assets that are available online. But I seem to recall as well, weren't you in charge of an incubator or leading an incubator, something to that effect?
Yes, sir. So I am the founding CEO of Evergreen Bioscience Innovation. That is the modern innovation cluster aiming to build the bioscience ecosystem of the future in the greater Northwest. And so the area that we cover is Washington, Idaho, Oregon, Montana, and Utah, certainly aiming to make that geographic region larger.
No,
but
Colorado?
Nevertheless,
Sorry.
we do have a couple of members in Colorado. So I think it would be fair to claim Colorado as well. And we're excited. I think we're excited always to engage with folks who are interested in what we're trying to do. So what we know about the work that we do is that it is complex. It is multi-stage. There are a lot of milestones you have to get through, lots of steps. Companies rarely have all the expertise in-house, and they often go out for contract service providers. We also know in our region that there are a lot of existing and growing contract service providers. So we wanted to be able to make sure that not only do our innovators in our region know about the local resources, so in other words, they can call people who are in their own or adjacent time zone to get support, but also expand the range of those contract service providers both across the United States as well as the world. And a modern innovation cluster is very much focused on doing that. I stepped down from the CEO role earlier this year and handed it over to Michelle Armstrong, who is our executive director. And I occupy a board position now and focus on talent development, but always very excited to share the innovation cluster with people who are interested and who want to know more.
I think it's so important to have that as well, because I sort of see that there are needs for understanding of where resources are, especially whenever you need them. I mean, obviously there are plenty of times whenever, the primary researcher or the individual who started the company or what have you, they know what to do and they know how to sort of proceed. But then all of us get to that point where we just need more help and need resources to be able to reach out to and make sure that we, are leveraging people that can actually help us and have an impact.
Very true. It's like that Beatles song, we get by with a little help from our friends.
Absolutely. So can you tell us more about your current role and your current responsibilities leading your own consulting company?
Sure. So it's an eponymous consulting firm. I am a solopreneur. I do most of the work and most of the consulting, though I am in the process of looking at how I expand that appropriately for people. My current role is to provide the engine behind what we're doing, to provide the advice and consulting that my companies need. I I'm really a problem solver. So a CEO or an investor will bring me in when a company is facing challenges that they're unable to overcome with their own initiative. And we see this a lot. Companies don't always know what they don't know, and they also tend to struggle and sometimes can't see their way out of what they've achieved. So I work in strategy, I work in operations, and I can work in leadership. And what we find is that a problem often has one or more of those facets. So as an objective third party, I can come in, sit down and have a calm discussion. Sometimes we have to calm down a little bit, but can have a calm discussion with folks about what is happening, what do they see, what really is, maybe reorient people on what those original goals were, because people tend to drift as well from the vision, that original vision. And then help people start to sort through what the options are, and also bring in the expertise of my network where I don't have any direct ability to assist, or where somebody needs a little bit more specific assistance.
Very good. And so would you say that primarily when somebody brings you in to help overcome challenges, are they mostly sort of focused on like the drug development side or the process side, or kind of a mix of both? I mean, just curious, just so that people know, hey, look, keep you in mind for these specific things for sure.
Okay. Well, one of the things that makes me unusual is that I can work in drugs, devices, diagnostics, and digital health. And from a digital health perspective, it's primarily software as a medical device, but I'm getting a lot of calls these days to help people with AI tools and other kinds of things that are creeping out. The boundaries are really kind of very fuzzy there right now. The stage of the problem, or the scope of the problem, tends to be very particular to the stage of the company. But we know some really obvious problems are cases where people are struggling to do enough customer discovery to understand what the market potential looks like, what the go-to-market and looks like, how to articulate that effectively. Also, there are cyclical changes to the market and to the funding, and people are expecting things to stay the same and they don't. And so then how do you shift people's perspective on, let's pivot and move towards what the most likely source of revenue is, or what is the most productive discussion around how to move your product forward. And sometimes it can be a really difficult conversation. Do you have too many people, or is there a case here where we have to make changes to the business that are going to mean some very uncomfortable conversations with folks?
Yeah. It's so important to be right sized, especially as you're going through these sort of growth stages that every company sort of faces as it gets a little bigger, and you start to add more and more people and complexity and things like that. So as you take a look at the work that you do, how do you contribute in terms of reducing the cost and the time associated with bringing new therapies to market?
Well, a typical timeline for a medical device is 6 to 7 years. A typical timeline for a new therapeutic is about 13 years, and that's a timeline from issuance of IP. So it kind of doesn't count for that early development work. We work hard to help people break through the barriers. So one of the things that creates a big time lag is when you cannot make a decision. And the truth of the matter is you will never have all the data that you need to make the best decision. You have to you're best off working with the data that you have and making a decision to move forward, because not making a decision is also a decision, and it's usually not the best decision.
Yeah, it's I think really good advice, especially if somebody came out of an academic environment, right? I mean, you're used to sort of being in this cyclical research mode and not finishing a project. But at the same time, the projects that, most medical device or drug companies are working on are very dependent on timelines and trying to get through not just funding, but also making sure that they hit key milestones as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we have the opposite problem, I think, when people come from a larger organization and move into a startup organization without really understanding what they're getting into.